Yeah, well, you have to identify what is episodic and what's going to be ongoing. And what I mean by that is something like a limit to growth might be episodic in the sense that there's this problem. We don't have this thing and it's preventing our growth. So we get the thing. We remove the limit to growth by getting the thing, build a system around it, build the operations around it. And it never has to get dealt with again by anybody, like C-suite or whatever, the entrepreneur, the business owner. And then there's things that are episodic. And there's really only two things that are truly episodic that you need ongoing support for, that you need to refine consistently if you want to scale. If you don't want to scale, then you don't have to do anything, right? But if you do want to scale, there's two things that are ongoing at every level. So you reach this level of business growth, you build the systems and operations around it, and then you level up. But you never have to worry about this stuff again if you do it the right way, the way like we teach it in the velocity method, right? Identify, limit the growth, build the systems, build the operations, automate what can be automated, delegate what can be delegated, set up your checks and balances, never have to worry about it again. But the two things that you have to stay on top of, no matter what level you're at in the business, especially if you want it to grow, are messaging and execution, right? So you get to the next level, whatever program you're using, whatever ascension ladder, whatever method, there's levels, right? There's a journey. And when you take the next step, okay, in order to take that step, you have to execute. You have to have a method for executing quickly and completely, right? Tie up all the loose ends. There's a method to that. And then when you take the next step, your messaging has to change, because you're either talking to, like, let's say an ascension ladder, you sold a $7 product, the next step is sell a $47 and then a $10,000, right? Your message to a $10,000 buyer is different than a $47 buyer. Now maybe you start with a webinar and you're doing high ticket sales and you want to productize and go mass market, right? The message for the Model 3, the mass market Tesla, is different than the Model S. Right? So as you expand, as you scale, your message has to evolve at every step. Your messaging and your positioning, that's ongoing. You never get your message and then you're done. All right. And then again, kind of obvious, but execution. If you do not execute these things, you're not going to make it to the next level. Most people have it all mapped out and they actually progress as if they're executing, but they didn't actually execute these things. They didn't systematize it. They didn't build the processes. They didn't tie up their loose ends, and they never really make it to the next level because they're kind of tethered by unfinished business, with for lack of a better term there. And so those are the two things that are always ongoing, and that's why of all the programs we could have built, I don't teach people how to pay for advertising. I can help with that, but not everybody needs to pay for advertising. Not everybody needs to go paid ads to scale. It certainly helps, but not everybody needs direct response. Not everybody needs a webinar, right? There's multiple ways to scale the marketing. There's multiple ways to get the word out there. It won't matter if the message is not on point and congruent with where you're at in business, right? Some people have their message, it's a little bit beyond where they're at in business, sometimes a little bit behind. And so there's all these tactics, there's all these methods out there, and we can make them all work. You get a method, right? A webinar, JV, affiliate, you do YouTube videos, Facebook videos, you write copy, whatever. You sell widgets. We have an e-com store. The message, if it is on point, if the message and positioning is correct and you execute, you're going to take the next step. And that's ongoing. So you message, you execute, you refine your messaging, you execute, you refine your messaging, you execute. It doesn't matter what method you're using, you're going to make progress, which puts you ahead of 99.999% of anybody in your industry, in any industry that is not refining their messaging and executing consistently. So that's just so you guys understand and why we do what we do. We have two primary programs, right? One, the network, the mastermind, the consulting. It's really fine-tuning the messaging and positioning, and then whatever advertising method you're using, dialing that in and exploding it with messaging. It's an ongoing messaging and positioning. And then we have the velocity method, which is ongoing execution, executing the right thing at the right time to completion and moving on. Because those are the two most important things. So obviously that's what we focus on. It's not always super sexy because they're ongoing. You're never over the messaging hump if you want to scale. You might be over the hump for this phase of your business, but when you move into a more sophisticated buyer or a less sophisticated audience, right? Either way, your message has to change and you have to execute the things. Those two things, if you have a process for fine-tuning your messaging and your positioning and executing, you're going to win any method. It doesn't matter. Execute, refine message. Execute, refine message. That's how you win the game in any industry. So those are the two things that are ongoing. Everything else can be episodic. Everything else can be systematized, processes built, delegated, and you can just never have to worry about it again. But you got to work your messaging, and you and your team have to execute.